Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings in my weekly radio show is to provide you information the bought-off lamestream fake media will not present and will not touch. Our goal is to empower you, empowering you with information that enhances your freedoms and liberties, and information that you can utilize in our bucket brigade of truth to network to your friends, families, co-workers, neighbors, all your contacts. The more people we have educated with the facts, the sooner we end this reign of terror by the deep state. And we're in the middle of the war right now. And it has escalated with the election on November 3rd, 2020, and the fraud associated with that election. The radio show, you can join me every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. It's live. It's free. Go to davejanda.com. Go to the Listen Live button, hit it. It'll take you to Wham Talk 1600 streaming service. Hit that, and you're with us. Great guests, great analysis. We're there every Sunday for you from 2 to 5. Also available 24/7 on this YouTube channel, Operation Freedom, and also available at davejanda.com, both the free, the public side, as well as the subscription side. We hope you'll want to be part of our Freedom family with the extra content, extra information, the archives to all of our radio shows, all of our video shows that we do every week, our WTF show, our Insider Insight show, our Department of Advanced Research show, our healthcare policy series. Hope you become part of our Freedom family. The title of today's presentation is Dissecting the Election Scorecard Fraud. And it was a fraud. Years in the making. Many people, first of all, outside that window in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor, are even coming to the conclusion, although they fought me about this in the first month after the election, that the election was, in fact, an illegitimate fraud perpetrated by the deep state, so their sock puppet, Basement Joe Biden, and his handlers, which are really the power behind him, would get the reins of power and the reins of control. Being totalitarian thugs, that's their ultimate goal and objective. But over the past month, there's been a transformation outside that window in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor, and if it's happening here, it's obviously happening everywhere in the country. And that is the most adamant zealot of the progressive movement, of the deep state movement, has become obvious to them that Joe Biden, 80 million votes, 10 million, 12 million more votes than Obama ever got, when Joe Biden, the weekend before the election, came with Barack Obama to Flint, Michigan, and had a total in attendance of 76 people. His Thanksgiving message online drew 1,000 people, and 80 million people you're supposed to believe voted for this guy? No. This is a scam. It's an absolute scam. The problem with this scam is that it doesn't affect one person or 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people. It adversely affects the future of the 320 million people in our country now and the hundreds of millions who will be born into this country in the days, weeks, months, years, decades to come. This is about the takeover of our country into a totalitarian regime. Now, I know there's already elements of the totalitarian regime in place and have been for decades. We've spoken about this. The deep state has been at this for well over 100 years. But they've upped their game. They upped their game with the Kennedy assassination and many other events, including September 11th and the whole COVID situation, and now this. Thomas Jefferson stated, "Tyranny is defined as that which is legal for the government, but illegal for the citizenry." End quote. Very true back in the 1700s, and even more so, I believe, today. But I have firm belief that we are going to unravel this fraud before it can be perpetuated on January 20th, 2021. Why do I believe that? Is this just hopium? No. I believe there are certain people in place in our government that are in the process of exposing and have exposed, even though the bought-off, lamestream, fake media tentacle of the deep state will never speak about this. It doesn't matter. How many people go to that source? I mean, only the brain dead still go to what they call the mainstream media. Give me a break. Anyone still watching CNN or MSNBC or Fox for that matter? Come on. Get your head out of the sand. Actually, as a surgeon, I can tell you from an anatomical standpoint, get your head out of somewhere else where the sun doesn't shine. No, it's all a scam. And it's being exposed. And I believe people in government such as Donald Trump, General Michael Flynn, and if you did not watch the interview I did with General Flynn, we had it on our subscription platform, and our subscribers immediately asked me to upload it on YouTube, which I did this past weekend. If you have not seen that interview, you must. And then you must network it to anyone and everyone you know. It's extremely important. Very, very eye-opening and enlightening. But there are people like Sidney Powell and General Flynn and Lynn Wood and Rudy Giuliani, who's laid up a little bit with COVID at this point. But they have a team, a massive team. But there are citizens. There are patriots that have stepped up. Go look at that interview with Patrick Byrne I did a week and a half ago. The former CEO or founder of Overstock.com. He assembled a cybersecurity team because they had questions about what happened in previous elections. They looked at what happened in 2018, 2016. That team was assembled of what and monitored what was happening in 2020 with the election. That interview is, again, very eye-opening. Go to it. We took it from the subscriptions platform as well and gave it to the free platform here on YouTube. It's eye-opening. In fact, it was so eye-opening, President Trump retweeted it. It talks about the steal, altering the scorecard of the election. We have patriots, millions of patriots that are stepping up. Rudy Giuliani spoke about he has 5,000 people with affidavits that have sworn under penalty of perjury of going to prison if they're found to be wrong. 5,000 patriots that have stepped up and said on election day, this is the fraud I witnessed. This is the criminality I witnessed. There have been multiple hearings, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, which have blown this thing wide open. Bought off lamestream fake media won't report on it. Of course not, because they're owned by the deep state. They never will. Oh, you'll get a couple little drips and drabs out of the Tucker Carlsons and but who ultimately pays their paycheck, right? Who writes their check? Fox is part of the deep state. They sit. Their management sits on the board of the Council on Foreign Relations. Deep state think tank, implementation tank. Come on. Go to the independent media and stay there for your information, for your knowledge base. At these hearings, dozens and dozens and dozens of your fellow patriots stepped up, put their lives on the line. And I want to highlight one of them, a woman by the name of Melissa Carone. She testified in front of the Michigan State Senate and Michigan House. And I want to play for you her testimony. And you've probably heard it, but it bears hearing again. I've played this multiple times on my radio show, but it bears repeating. She was asked, you have a signed affidavit under penalty of perjury where you saw the criminality and you exposed that, but there are a couple other people that are supporting what you're saying, but why aren't there, these pontificating pompous, arrogant, totalitarian thugs, right, in government. Well, why haven't there been more people that have stepped forward? Why Rudy, 5,000 people. 5,000 people. But this is where these clowns are at. Listen to her response.
Representative Camilleri is asking is perhaps why is it that more people, and I know we have a couple here today, but why is it that we're not having more people come forward? I mean, it seems like if there was widespread fraud, that we had dozens and dozens of people.
I'll tell you why. My life has been destroyed. My life has been completely destroyed because of this. I've lost family. I've lost friends. I've been threatened. My kids have been threatened. I've had to move. I've had to change my phone number. I've had to get rid of social media. Nobody wants to come forward. They're getting threatened. Their lives are getting ruined. I can't even get an actual job anymore. I can't. Because Democrats like to ruin your lives. That's why.
Let's
Just like they do to Trump.
Just like they do to Trump. And she's right. They do try to ruin your life. Believe me, I deal with it every day. Have been for years. If they don't like what you're speaking about, let alone doing, they threaten you in no uncertain terms. It's because, well, that's their only way of dealing with the truth and the facts, to try to intimidate the truth tellers. Because all these people that are behind Basement Joe and the thugs behind him and behind Obama and the Bushes and the Clintons and the Romneys and the Ryans and you name it, just because you have a R after your name does not mean you're not part of this deep state syndicate. Oh, there are plenty. Too many. But basically, all these people that are in support of the deep state, this is a complete deep state totalitarian takeover is being attempted at this point. Their foundation is in communism, totalitarianism. It's that simple. It's not an overstatement. It's not an overreach. It's not hyperbole. It's fact. Anyone not opposing this election with the evidence that has been brought forward is telling you that they are a totalitarian thug. Period. From one of the chief totalitarian thugs in the past, Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. Tell me if his statement made 80 years ago is not reminiscent of what we're living through right now at the hands of the deep state totalitarian communists. Quote, I consider it completely unimportant who in the party will vote or how. But what is extraordinarily important is this. Who will count the votes and how? The foundations of a free society, an open society, are honest and free elections. And that's their target. As I mentioned from the very outset with this election, that this fraud was a multi-level, multifaceted, coordinated criminal vote fraud operation. And it just didn't start on November 3rd or a couple weeks before, a couple months before. This had been processed and in the process for years, many years. This was well conceived and frankly, well implemented. But it's going to fail. Why? Because there are millions, tens of millions of us who understand what happened. And we're going to end it and stop it. It's that simple. Now, when COVID hit, those of us in medicine that have a track record in medicine I practiced medicine for 32 years. The beginning of my career was when AIDS hit. I was in medical school at the time. It's at Northwestern in Chicago, and I was working in the infectious disease clinic. And we were seeing individuals come into that clinic, and in front of our eyes, and this is not an overstatement, you would see these patients that we didn't even have a name for it at that point. Their immune systems and their health would melt right in front of your eyes in real time. They would come in the clinic, and while you were speaking to them, and they were in tough shape to begin with, they would devolve into having a critical medical condition right in front of you. We didn't at first know what we were dealing with. We felt it was an infectious disease issue, but we felt it was probably multifactorial. That there was an infectious disease component to it, but there was also an environmental component to it, or a social component. But we didn't shut down the city of Chicago. The same thing was happening in New York and every large urban area. No city shut down, no state shut down, the country surely didn't shut down. But what we did is we analyzed the common denominators and worked with the public health officials and in fact found what was happening. And yes, there were some establishments shut down because we found out that they were actually niduses, centers, for where this health condition seemed to be more prevalent in. But we didn't panic the country or world. So when this COVID situation hit, many of us old-timers that had been through AIDS at the beginning were like, what is this? This is nuts. And then I started to ask the question, having a basis in healthcare policy, wait a minute. What else is going on here? There's something else going on here, that this COVID situation is being used for some other means, beyond even the control situation. And then as we got closer to the election, and I saw election laws being changed, I came to the conclusion that COVID was used to change election laws to set up a steal for the deep state of the election. And yes, and that ushered in mail-in voting, right? Because of COVID. And the mail-in voting was beyond a goat rodeo. It was fraud. I mean, even deep state players in the past, when maybe they weren't getting as much money as they are now from the deep state, said, well, this mail-in voting is a fraud and it's a problem and you shouldn't go there. Well, now all of a sudden they're like, oh, mail-in voting, not an issue. Let's bring it on. And we had the mail-in voting fraud. We had the absentee voting fraud. We had the fake polls. We had the fake endorsements. And remember, before the election, I said, it's going to look like Trump wins at night, but look out afterwards, because remember, 2 days before the election, General Tom McInerney came on my radio show, Operation Freedom, and spoke about how the deep state was going to steal this electronically. We have that interview. Well, we had that interview on YouTube, and it had gone viral. And we put it up on Sunday night. I did the interview Sunday evening. We put it immediately up on YouTube for everyone, free. And it lasted till Tuesday morning at 7/11 of Election Day, 2 days later. And it had gone viral by then, and it was taken down. So if you want to see that interview, which it's General McInerney was very prophetic in it, and outlined how it was going to happen with the hacking of the systems through Hammer, through the implementation with Scorecard, that is an exploit that sends off, that flips votes from Trump to Biden, deletes votes of Trump's, adds votes to Biden. That's on our webpage, davejanda.com. There's a red box. There's a yellow box. There's a blue box. Blue box is where we have the interview I did with General Flynn. Yellow box are some very important aspects, one of which is I'm going to get to later in this presentation. And then there's a red box where we have General McInerney's interview. Please watch it if you haven't. But this was a multifactorial steal. They did it on different planes. Yeah, the dead people's vote and the stuffing of the ballots vote. That's all. I grew up in Chicago. That's all Chicago tricks. That's old school. And they did that. And then you add to it the mail-in vote and the absentee manipulation. But the real big steal came electronically. And COVID was used to change election laws going in, and then how people could monitor the vote counting afterwards. Remember, right down the street here in Detroit. Because of COVID, the Secretary of State had just the Republican poll watchers removed. Oh, isn't that special? The Republican vote challengers removed. Oh, how special. Because, the room was too full. Oh, you had to stand not 6 feet away, which is too far to begin with, but 100 feet away to monitor because of COVID. Unbelievable. But some months before the election, a deep state hack by the name of Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, made the following statement. Quote, "The pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world." Getting Trump out. Getting the nationalists out. We need globalists. This guy's getting in our way, and his supporters are getting in our way. We have to find a way to reset the world. There is an urgent need for global stakeholders to cooperate, he stated, in simultaneously managing the direct consequences of the COVID-19 crisis. To improve the state of the World Economic Forum is starting the Great Reset Initiative. And the first part of that reset initiative were the lockdowns and all the control mechanisms of COVID, followed by the great election heist in the United States. Taking out their speed bump for freedom, that being Donald Trump and all of his supporters.